Welcome everybody to C.HR with Ariaunstewart. Today we have a special guest. We have Tiana here today. I'm so excited to have you here. We've obviously worked a lot together, and I'm just like, you have to be on the show. We gotta talk about all the great things that you guys are doing.
Yeah.
So I want to start by talking about what you do right now. So you are co-owner of the Hub,
Right.
and you run, is it Yellowbird Management? So can you tell us just a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, so the Hub is a community resource hub where hustlers unite and build, and it's right downstairs from Green Screen. So I'm running that with Chris, and that's really a platform for creatives to come in and get the resources that they need to develop themselves, individually, artistically, entrepreneurially, if that's a word, and just literally so we can all come together and make a space, because we've all found each other in one way or another. And then Yellowbird Management came, well, the name Yellowbird is because my friend Harold always calls me Birdie, Yellowbird, so I was like, all right, well, we're turning it into a business. So,
might as well go with it.
So Yellowbird Management came as an entity to run these spaces that we were finding. So it started with Studio 235. The management part of it needed to exist, and so I was like, well, I'm already doing the analytics, so let me just try to formulate a business out of it, and then got the LLC, figured everything out, and just been developing it that way. So both of these ideas are scalable, for sure. So now Yellowbird
manages
the Hub, but it can also take on other spaces
and grow over time.
Yeah, so it's just about properly activating space for the resources and things that we need. We need accessible, inclusive spaces.
Yes,
absolutely. Where it's you can be with no judgment and actually be around people that can talk to you about these things. Yeah,
right, and do those. Yeah, exactly. What got you started on this journey? So, because I know you went to UMass, right? And you went for.
I went for art history.
Art history, right? And I know that you were talking about you've managed art spaces and you've been in museum spaces and all that. So what kind of transitioned you from what college set you up for to doing something as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, honestly, working in museums and seeing it, I was very blessed at being at UMass at the time that I was, because it was the first time they were showcasing that many Black artists. But it was a very drastic contrast between the curriculum in class for art history versus what they were displaying at the museum, and then the way that the visitors were interacting with the art and with the artists. People would walk and be like, oh, are you the artist? No, I'm not, and it's just oh, you know what I mean? And so
yeah, I know what you,
and it was very much I've said this before on interviews and things, but it was probably the most racist experience I've had in an academic setting, because when anyone talked about Black art or Black artists creating art, it was always a problem. It was an issue. No matter what the subject, the topic, none of it, it was an issue. And there were students standing up in their seats, getting very upset and very loud, and I was the only person of color in the room in my entire major. It was crazy. So I was taking those experiences with museum studies and arts management, and realizing that I need to learn about people that look like me, about things that I'm actually interested in, because at the end of the day, I'm not trying to work in a museum in the European art.
Yeah, which it seems is the majority of what you actually see. Yeah.
Right, and it's at the fact of the matter is I wasn't about to get hired into a museum. I applied for internships for years. I applied for jobs for years, and I never heard anything back. So, but either way, I took that
to where you are,
and I was like, let me just see. I was like, there needs to be a space for us. I want to see I want to see representation, inclusion. I want to see support, and so I started madethnic.art. In my house for UMass, and it literally started as an idea to throw a house party for the creatives, and so it was just a way to kind of start this database of living artists and people that we could talk to and meet and walk up to and be like, hey, what are you doing, what are you up to,
right?
And kind of document the art and the process in real time. So it started like that, and then that led me to started throwing pop-ups everywhere because they were a hit, and so I did them in gallery spaces and museums. That got us into a mill location in Holyoke, which is a crazy art space with David Scher. I love him. I love that space. It's amazing. And then that led us into Studio 235, which led us into the Hub. So it was kind of like progression, but it was built out of necessity because I realized very quickly UMass wasn't going to teach me anything that of like value because, you know.
Right. But I'm guessing that, I mean, what I feel like with school is sometimes you go into college not fully sure what you want to do, but like you have an idea. But at the end of the day, like you can still network there.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And I feel like, especially going to a school like UMass, I'm sure you met like the people that you were like, you know what, these are actually people I can work with like what I'm doing next.
Yeah, and like that's why I say I was blessed with that museum at that time because like I worked there. I did my work study there. I did my internship there. I was spending all of my time. If I wasn't in class, I was at the museum. I was a tour guide there for a year. So I really just kind of like lived there, you know? And it was perfect. Like I learned so much, and I actually extended my year at UMass to work there longer because I realized that I was like, I'm not going to get this level of like hands-on activity and learning anywhere else. So stayed there, learned everything that I absolutely could, took more arts management courses. And those networks like got me into like even have the ability to throw a show wherever I wanted, you know. It was amazing. Yeah,
no, that's awesome. And then I know because I was around for like Studio 235, I remember when you were doing the pop-ups. I think that's the first time you were throwing one of the pop-ups in that mansion. That was the first time I remember like us first crossing paths. And then
at the Wow Art Gallery.
And then I feel like you've really evolved the business so much. So I know you've been a part of a lot of different like networking groups. You've mentioned stuff like E4All and all that. So like what have you learned from these opportunities, and how would you suggest other people like really dive in on those resources that are out there?
Like entrepreneurial resources?
Yes.
Apply to them. If you have an idea, write it down, get a pitch together, talk to someone about it. But like seek the resources because they really do exist. Like there's a ton of resources for people that want to build their idea and like really like take off. But like things like E4All, like apply to E4All. It's free to apply. It's a free program. You learn so much. Like E4All helped us get through Studio 235 in a pandemic and pivot and secure a new location in downtown Springfield. Like get on that because like the resources, it was 10 weeks of intensive training, so it's like you have to show up, you know, and you have mentors. Get mentors because I honestly like trying to figure this out by yourself is
you don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Like there's so many levels and different layers that like you really don't even know you have to think about. Definitely tap in because those resources are everywhere.
That's awesome because in the show, because I do HR, I like to share different resources and ways that people can like build and constantly be learning because you should all no matter what, there's always something new that you can learn out there. So I want to talk a little bit more about what you were saying about pivoting during COVID because you guys went into like right at the timing of the pandemic. You had finally the space that everybody was looking for, the physical come out, show up, party like space, and you guys were able to manage like transitioning and pivoting to where you are now, having a beautiful storefront because it's the 13, is it 41?
1341,
1341 Main Street. And
in the back. If you go to the front, you will not find us. So many people get lost, but it's in the back.
Yes, and now you guys are able to just like keep growing. Like there are businesses that had been around for years before the pandemic that didn't survive the pandemic. You know what I'm saying? So how do you think, can you tell us a little bit about like how you were able to transition, like even like mentally too? Like I'm sure that was a very stressful process for you.
It was in a way. It was a transitional period on like many different levels. Like our housing situation changed, our our business situation changed, but it came at the right time. But as far as like a lot of people were like, well, how are you doing this? Like even with like my art shows, Like, I had professors tell me, they're like, well, I tried to get a budget, but I couldn't get this full $5,000 budget, so I didn't do it. I'm like, I've never had a budget. I've never had capital. I've never had funding. Like, these resources weren't just available to me, so it's not like I was missing out on anything by not having them. So it was like, okay, you have to pivot. Okay, cool. Well, either way, like, Studio 235, we didn't, like, I guess we asked, you know, the universe for Studio 235. It was very much a manifestation of everything we were talking about.
Yeah.
But we didn't actively go look for Studio 235.
For that space, right.
We just were, like, given this opportunity, like, hey, I have a space. I don't know what to do with it. You guys are photographers, like, get in here. And then 3 days later, we had the keys, and we're like, okay, crap. Like, we need to make this work.
Yeah, we got to make it happen now.
Right, so it's really just been, like, just putting things together, seeing what works, what doesn't, but doing it quickly. But it's not, like, we didn't lose business. Well, we did. We lost business because, like, for the pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not like we weren't, like, a thing. Like, we weren't, like, there. We started in, February? The pandemic happened in March.
Right. So it was kind of like we weren't here long enough to really be losing something. It was just more like...
Yeah, like, our bookings in advance canceled because they were afraid. They're like, well, I don't want to do anything now. And so...
Yeah.
But, like, having to pivot, like, that transition is, like, we really didn't, like, we were doing it out of our pocket. And so we crowdfunded, we did some fundraisers, which was, like, super helpful.
Yeah.
And then when we realized there was, like, a lot of flags that were coming up at the studio, and it was just like, okay, like, we know this isn't it. Like, this isn't long-term for us. We had already outgrown it, you know? Like, we couldn't expand. It was 8,000 square feet, but, like, for what we wanted to do, it just wasn't it. Like, we couldn't effectively reach our community.
Yes.
And then we came
that's what
here.
I love about the space that you have now.
Yeah. So like when we were like, we came here for Darius's birthday. And then that was the first time I had been here. And then Jason was like, oh, hey, there's a ton of space here. Like, let's go look. So we just got a tour through the whole building. And then like the next day or so, like, we were shown downstairs. And I was like, oh, this is it. Like, I'll take it. Yes. Thank you. Like, so it was just like having to like transition. It's not like we didn't lose, you know, like tens of thousands of dollars and be like, oh my God, what are we going to do?
Now. Like, and that's another thing that I feel like was almost not perfect timing, but it was like you guys didn't have a ton of time to accumulate like a ton of overhead.
Right.
So it was like, you know, it worked out. But so the space you have now, can you tell us a little bit about what you do there? If people want to come check out the space, like what you guys have going on.
Yeah. So we're there pretty much all the time at this point, but it's a rentable venue in its like essence, so you can rent out the hub for whatever you want. It's hourly rentals for like photo studio videos, and then there's retail space, there's workshop space, we have yoga in there, so it's really, if you wanted to book the hub, you can do it for any type of event, like anything, literally anything you want. And what's been happening now is everyone's booking it for their private events. So it's really fun to see what people envision, like how they're going to move in the hub. Yeah, so it's like we're really just providing a platform and like structure to events and to like community engaging programming.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah, and it's fun.
What you're saying about sometimes it's like interesting to see what people think. Do you get ideas where you're like, I didn't even think about doing that in this space?
Not yet.
Not yet,
I don't think. It's interesting what people, like, when they're talking about their type of event and what they think can fit in the space. Oh, okay. And I'm like, no, we're not, that's not gonna work. You know, and I'm just like spatially, like, you cannot fit that many things in here. So it's good that we, you know, we took it slow trying to figure it out, because, like, we had to we made a business plan on the fly at the studio, and then we had to make another one because it's not the same. You can't go from 8,000 square feet to 1,500 and have,
you have to completely restructure.
Right. So it's like we had to, you know, work for a while and see what was going to work. We tested out a bunch of different types of events, and so now it's at the point where we've pretty much seen a wide enough range of like what could happen, so that, you know, we are pretty. I guess we're pretty prepared to see. Yeah.
Right. What else you want to do, like, moving forward?
Yeah, but nothing that wild has happened yet. We do have at the end of the month though, like Fabe and Sham and they're building, and T-Swan, they're building a stage in the back. So that's gonna be dope. We haven't had like construction happen for an event yet.
Yeah,
so
someone's gonna come out there and like build the stage, and that's the thing about the space too. For any of you that haven't actually like seen it yet, because of where it's located, it's right next to a parking lot. It's right across from where Mass Mutual is, so you have that parking. I'm all about parking. It is so hard to park in this city.
I know.
So to have a space that has parking, and it's like, and then you have the lights that are in the open outside space.
The patio lights down the entire block.
Which is beautiful, and especially when you're going somewhere late at night, it just makes you feel comfortable because you're like,
it's like it's lit.
There's lights, you know, like
I can walk down.
You can't take anything for granted, you know. So, and then you have that space, and then you have Nosh right next to it. So you know,
we got blessed. We literally got blessed with this space. Especially with Nosh. Having good neighbors is like very important. We did not have good neighbors at the studio. And we didn't have parking at the studio. That was our biggest downfall. And then what do we have at the hub? All we look out, there's a parking lot, a parking garage, street parking. MGM is right across the street. Like, it's perfect. It's literally like we could not have asked for a better location.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And then like even myself and Bianca, we're gonna do an event there, and we're gonna have like a career center type of event. You know, we're gonna invite different people who are hiring and own businesses, and we're gonna have people who need to find jobs. Like there's just all different types of stuff that you can do in that space, from like fun parties, professional gatherings for your company, all of that. And it's just perfect. And I love that Nosh is right there, because even for the 420 event that you just did, like they just popped up. They were like, oh, we got a special drink for today. Like that's just how cool they are about that's real business and innovation. The fact that they're willing, I was like, hey guys, I want a custom drink for this event. And I was trying to make one myself, and I'm just like, this is not what I want. And then so Terry, the owner, she was working on 2 of them. I actually they're still selling those drinks. Are they? Yeah, it's like the Sunset or something. It's like a strawberry lemonade one that they made, and there's the Green Goddess, which has like matcha in it, and it's like matcha gin and a bunch of green stuff. But yeah, I was very pleased with that, and everybody loved them. Like everybody loved them. And the fact that they're like flexible enough and like accepting of everybody too. I love that, and I love that we can collab, because like competition is not it. We're 2 different fields. The fact that, you know, we can have fully catered events with like a full bar. You know, it's perfect. I don't need a liquor license. Yes, get around that one. But also, because it's like, there are so many different businesses out here that I feel like people don't think about collaborating. Or they're very into doing like just their strategic plan. Where you just, because they could have been a whole completely different way. Like, and just, like, you know what I mean? They could have been like, oh, I don't know about the crowd or the people, blah, blah. It's like, no, all money is green. We should work together. They really could. I guess that's like, they said that the previous owners were not as open to collaboration, and so they had like thanked us. Yes, so they were happy that we were there and like bringing them new business and like fresh opportunities and things like that. So it's honestly, it's like that. It used to be called serendipity, and it's like a very serendipitous thing that has happened for us. And the fact that we're all here, like the fact that I can go upstairs from the hub and be on your podcast. I know, it's probably the best part. Beautiful. It's beautiful. I love it. And then, okay, so for shows coming up, you got the Arts and Keys. On the 30th. On the 30th. You have something coming up. You know, sometimes I was like, I don't know what time this episode's gonna go live, so I didn't know what to talk about, but we're live. We can talk about all of it. Yes, everybody. So, you got something going on this weekend, right? Every Sunday. Every Sunday we have Sunset at the Hub with Juice the DJ. We have, and there's a whole crew behind that. Their promo is A1. 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 Like, the Snapchat filter that I just saw, if y'all are live on my Facebook, like, you all can see it right now. But A1, so that's happening Sundays. We still have Self-Care Sundays with Black Girls Who Freedom Flow. We have Turn Up Thursdays, so that's that should be happening about right now. Awesome. What else do we have? So we have the Mother's Day. Yeah, we have the Mother's Day special happening, and we have a coupon code. So if this airs before the 21st, the coupon code is SPFLD. You get $21 off by the until the 21st. So on any booking. So you want to throw a party, you want to
do a pop-up, you want to launch your brand, your business, you want to have a mixer, $21 off.
That's awesome. And then not only that, but for people who want to rent out this space and they might like have a little bit of an idea, because you do the Yellowbird management side, you do help people kind of like take their seed of an idea and like roll it out too, right?
I do. And I've also made it so that when you do book, it goes through, I don't know if you saw it when you booked it, but it goes through an event proposal form. So it's pretty much every question that I can personally think of based off of the events that I've done in the past and the events that we've had so far.
Right.
I've asked the questions before you pay.
So
you already know that you need to think about these things, because it's going to save you time, I promise. It's going to save me so much time, and it's going to allow for a very like smooth production. Like there are things you need to know, and like not everybody knows that you need to know these questions unless you're like doing it, you know. So I've tried to ease the process as best as I possibly can.
Yeah, and I feel like, you know, with things getting a little bit better with the pandemic and stuff, and people definitely are itching to get outside. You know, it's like I'm just excited that this space is available. You guys are able to do socially distanced events. You're able to have everything right there that you need. And, you know, just definitely check it out. Can you share, like, your Facebook, Instagram, all that information with everybody?
Yeah. So, on Facebook, I think you spell out Springfield. I think it's Springfield Hub. Or if you just search the Hub, you'll see it. Instagram is SPFLDHUB. And me personally, I'm Trizzy on everywhere, TRIZZAE. And Yellowbird Management doesn't really have an online presence right now, but we're out here.
Yeah, but you got the email for it, so people can hit you up on there.
Connect@springfieldhub.com is the email for any type of events or anything you want to do.
Awesome. And we do have a couple minutes left, so I did want to go back a little bit into your history of like how you got to this point too, because I know that your father is an artist. So did you like draw as a kid? Did you just love art? Like what got you to that point?
Everyone in my family is an artist. But yeah, definitely inspired by my dad drawing all the time. We were always drawing. When I went to school, I started college as a fine art and studio art major. And then I took an art history class. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, well, that's kind of cool. Honestly, like growing up around art, I didn't realize that like other kids didn't draw all the time. You know, like when I'm going to school and people are like, oh, I don't know how to draw. I was like, what do you mean you don't know how to draw? I was like, everybody knows how to draw because everyone I was around knew how to draw. So
so you see their sketches like, oof.
Right, like I never knew it was like different, you know? But it was definitely got me to where I am now. Like I wanted to study art history in order to be able to do something with all the art that was being produced in the family, you know? Because there's a ton of artists, but I was like, then it got me thinking, I'm like, well, what else in the art world are we missing? Like, where else could we fill in? Like, we have family historians, but, like, what can we do with, like, you know, the procurement of art and, you know, like...
It marks the time. It tells a lot within that snapshot, not Snapchat, of that time and, like, that decade and everything. And I feel, I always, when I think of art sometimes, especially with museums, I think of, like, just, like, time capsules.
Yeah.
Like if
pretty much,
and I think about that on social media too. I'm like 20, 30 years from now, when we've, you know, settled into like whatever lives we are at that point, like how are you gonna know what happened at this point?
Right.
And like how has it been documented? And stuff like what you guys are doing is gonna be.
Yeah. We have to get
the time.
Right. We gotta really get on our documentation more. But at least like we have teams and teams of videographers.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys are well documented. Everything's
I'm trying to make sure every event we do, you know, we have live stream, we have photographers everywhere, but you know, it's like it really is like creating like lasting memories, because like when we're not here, like I want people to realize like what we just did, and you know like what we're actively doing, because just like generations before paved the way for us, it's like we're definitely paving new ways for people behind us, especially in this era of a pandemic where it's like nothing is normal anymore. So what we're doing right now is literally setting the stage for the new normal.
Exactly.
And we're at the forefront. Like we have space, we have property downtown. You know, like we're out here and we're visible. And it's like there's a lot of things that like kind of say they have missions and they're not really following it, but we're trying to stay as true to that as possible and like give as many people opportunity as we possibly can.
And I feel like people underestimate it. I feel like there was a conversation of like is physical space, office space, and all that going to be the same after the pandemic because everybody's like virtual? But then when you think about spaces that are dedicated to like art and entertainment, it's like, no, like people are gonna want to come back outside. That's being like, human.
Outside,
like you know, because I'm just like, no, I don't want to be on Zoom all day. That will not be my new normal.
No, and that's only if you're in school or you're working a 9 to 5.
Exactly.
No one really that we're working with, and I say this all the time. I was just saying this downstairs. If you want to keep your 9 to 5, I can't talk to you. Like, don't talk to me about it.
Yeah.
Don't talk to me about it because I was like, there's so many different ways for you to make money on your own doing what you want to do, and it's going to be so much more fulfilling. A lot of people are satisfied with their 9 to 5. No shade.
Yeah, no.
But like, for a lot of people, for a lot of our friends, that's not really it. So just finding ways to like keep us going without following the status quo, like, you know.
And I talk to my dad all the time about that because my dad is obviously a different generation. So they're more like, no, you need to have like that job. You need to work there till retirement and this and that. But there are so many ways, like, and getting into the HR side about it too, what I love to talk about with entrepreneurs is really making sure that as long as you have like your retirement kind of plan, like, excuse me, but like the thing about jobs is they're coming with a certain type of security, right? So it's like health insurance, retirement. You can do those things on your own.
Yeah.
All they're doing is taking a portion of the money that you worked for and putting it aside to allocate it for things that you need. That's not rocket science.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I agree with you. Like, there's so many ways that you can make money. You can take the skills. Even me, like, doing this show, it was like, I do human resources. I've done it for so many other companies.
Right.
But I want to bring it to the community. I want to bring that information, you know, to the community. So I completely agree with you there. And, you know, anybody out there who's thinking about it, like, oh my goodness, should I quit my job? Like, do it.
Do it. If it's not fulfilling you, if it doesn't sit right in your soul, you're only going to be able to last there for so long. Like, you're only going to be able to last there for so, like, you're only going to be able to last there for so long.
And that's the thing, like, I rather deal with the tough days of running my own business, having to figure it out, than dealing with the tough days of something that at the end of the day, they'll replace you in a heartbeat.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, no matter what, life is going to have its ups and downs. It's going to be stressful. But if you're working on something that you're building for yourself, that's something that you can leave to your kids, your family. You know, that's something that's going to have your stamp on it forever. So.
Right. And it's not easy either. It's not like, oh, yeah, come to the hub. We're going to, like, figure your life out for you. No.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, it does take a ton of hard work. It really does. Like, you have to put in the same amount of hours as you would for whatever, you know,
if
like,
not more.
Right, because it's like, I really can't stop. Like, sometimes I'm up working on this stuff until like 4 in the morning, and then I gotta wake up because I have a booking at 10. You know, so it's like, you really have to go hard, and you have to like remember, and if you ever get off track, even if you are in a 9 to 5, remember why you're doing it.
Exactly.
You know, like, you really got to keep yourself aligned and just remind yourself, what are your values, what are you working for, what are your long-term goals, what are your short-term goals, like, what you're working to get money, right? So what are you trying to do with that money? When you have it, what are you doing with it?
Yes.
You know, and it's just like,
everyone's like, I want this amount in my bank, but then it's like, okay, for what?
Right, and it's like, if you know what you want to use it for, it's like, that'll keep you aligned, and that'll keep you motivated, and it'll also, tough, right, and it'll like allow you to get in line with all these people, like networking. You know, leveraging your network is the most important thing. You can get so much further with that than you could with, you know,
just like, if you do have to network, you have to get out there. Some people, I'm trying to make sure we don't go over time for the other camera, but I feel like sometimes you do need to take a moment, like, to yourself and like reflect and get your game plan together. But at a certain point, you do need to get out there because you can miss so much. You could be somewhere working on your business plan, you know, shut away from the world, come back to Facebook 3 months later and realize you were way off from what people actually need.
Right.
So there is a certain amount, you have to have like a healthy balance of like taking in other people's like energies and working with people and being on like social media and stuff like that, but stay connected enough so that you know what's important and relevant in your industry and what you're trying to get to. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming out. I appreciate it.